other screens that are popping up?
If you move over this way, we don't have the light.
We're on.
Are you live right now? Dale?
Yes, you're live. Go.
Who do you have on there?
Okay. Well, we're a little bit early, but glad you guys are here. Hang on. What's going on here?
All right. Am I live on there? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Weston Martinez coming to you here today from the Texas Capitol. I'm joined by my friend Mike Miller and other patriots that are here from different parts of the state for a press conference that we are about to initiate. For all the other people that are here that are joining with the media, we'll talk about, we'll take some questions, but then we'll also have all this in our media file. What you see before you happening right now are pictures of reconnaissance that's been taking place by Mike Miller, other people like Sandra Whitten, and who's running for Congress in the Rio Grande Valley, along with other people from North Texas that are taking pictures of buses that are moving illegal aliens across the state of Texas and from our Texas border into the rest of the country. As we do this, what we're talking about today is the fact that we are at war and we are under siege. We are working on how to find a way to protect our borders, secure our country, because we know that if there is no border, that there is no country. And we have to stop this invasion now. We know that politicians have limited capabilities, and we have to make sure they're properly motivated. What you see on the screen right now is a school bus that is picking up illegal aliens from the Del Rio border and then taking those people. You can see there's the bus there again.
Authorized by the superintendent of that ISD.
And then being used to transport our children later on in the day. So we have a very, very, very grave situation taking place before our very eyes. And we want to make sure that each and every one of you guys are aware of what's going on. So the press release that we'll be putting out, the headline is Weston Martinez calls on the governor and the state legislature, TxDOT, and DPS officials to enforce hazardous material regulations to stop the spread of COVID-19 by all means possible. This would include illegal aliens that are currently being transported inside the state of Texas. Today, as we move forward, we want to highlight the fact that the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas and Department of Transportation immediately begin to enforce its hazardous material transportation regulations already in place under federal law in order to help curb the spread of COVID-19 by any means necessary. This includes illegal aliens that are entering the state of Texas. I am demanding that we have the state officials, that they utilize the federal protections that have been put in place in order to protect our citizens, both here and abroad. Each and every day, we've got thousands of illegal aliens that are crossing the border with COVID-19. And each and every day, as has been evidenced by myself, by Mike Miller, by other people, like I mentioned, Sandra Whitten, and many, many others, we know that those people are being transported across Texas, not only by cartels, not only by human traffickers, but also by federal officials and also by individuals in the private sector that are contracted by NGOs in order to transport these individuals. What we know is that the movement of the untested and unvaccinated aliens is fueling the spread of COVID-19 and its variants across the Lone Star State. And we're saying that specifically for all of the liberals that are out there that don't want to secure our border. Don't tell me you want to stop the spread of COVID-19 and then also in the other breath tell me that you don't want to secure our border. We know that the two are related, and we know that you are aware as well. In this particular situation, we know that with untested aliens should be deemed as hazardous material under the Transportation Title 49 of the U.S. Code, because In that Transportation 49, it goes into a very detailed explanation of bacterial infections that are being transported by by different things, whether it's animals, people, plants. That section of the code is in there, and it carries with it a civil penalty of $84,425 for each violation. And the maximum civil penalty is $196,992 if the violation results in death, serious illness, or severe injury to any person. We've all heard for the last year how people are dying of COVID-19. We've all heard how they can't stop the spread. Get a shot, stop the spread. Wear a mask, stop the spread. The only thing that stops the spread in the minds of a liberal is somebody being dead, unfortunately.
I want to speak on this real quick. With the COVID-19 virus, we're being mandated. Doctors and nurses in buildings of 100 or more are being forced to vaccinate, or they're being terminated from the position. I just watched a video this morning of multiple nurses trying to get their supervision to state, "Are you firing me?" And they're like, "You're being terminated." This is the term that they're using. Fire, terminated, doesn't matter. They're putting mass mandates out there. Weston and I know that with the 29,780 people who recently came into Del Rio, not including the other sectors where we know that there's thousands, 2,000s moving between La Jolla, Hidalgo, all these different areas. We don't have the resources, is what we're being told, to test these individuals for COVID-19. So if they're going to force the jab and they're going to tell people that they need to wear masks and mandate, well, they need to enforce laws in the state of Texas that have already been written that state you cannot transport hazardous materials on these buses. That's any of them. And the big part is they should be ashamed of themselves for using school buses that our children ride in when these infected individuals are in it. We're not going to stand for it, and this is how we're going to enforce it.
And as we go through this, you're going to see that we've got some other technical information in the press release that'll be sent to the media. We intentionally did not want to send it to the media in advance because we knew that they would try to find ways to cast this differently. So thank you guys for sharing these videos to bring out the truth. But when you look at this by the statutes that already existed prior to the existence of COVID-19, COVID-19 falls under a specific category, A.UN 2814, which requires numerous public safety measures, including registration, training, shipping papers, labels, vehicle placards, etc. All of those requirements are in the law, which include insurance requirements, operational restrictions, commercial driver's license endorsements, routing and parking requirements for hazardous material, and also federal rules that are already being used to protect citizens against unsafe transport of several infectious diseases dangerous to humans, including Ebola virus and smallpox. You see, since the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the CDC, has determined that the Delta variant of COVID-19 is more transmissible than Ebola and smallpox, it only makes sense that the same rules be utilized to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. When we talk about this, ladies and gentlemen, the information that Mike has gathered, that Sandra has gathered, that other patriots have gathered, not just from the border, but from North Texas as well, we know that not only should we protect the public health and safety by enforcing these federal rules, but we must also protect our state's economy as well. These laws not being adhered to is jeopardizing not only the well-being of Texas, but the welfare of Texas. That means our health, our safety, and our economy. So again, as we talked about, we've got thousands of individuals that have lost their lives. And part of that is because these people have gone by unchecked. And as we move forward in this fight, we are taking it to the next level. We have people in this building and in the one up in Washington, D.C., that don't want to see these rules being administered against them.
Right.
We've seen law enforcement, unfortunately, not good law enforcement. We've seen some law enforcement not carrying out their duties according to their mandate. We've seen law enforcement sacrificing their lives from away from their families to protect us. So we know there's good and bad actors everywhere. But in this situation, we know that the complaints that we're going to file with the Department of Public Safety is directly going to be at the commercial driver's license holders and also the operators of those bus systems, so that we can make sure that each and every one of those people are held accountable. You see, whether it's anything coming across the border that has these types of infections or diseases, the fine is specific. And being a former commissioner for the state of Texas, I can tell you that when you look at those rules and those regulations, some things have open interpretation and some things do not. This is one of those things that clearly the people that wrote these rules knew there was not going to be the case. So what we'd like to do now is just move back into what we've seen on the border for just a minute. Mike, part of what you've seen, not only at your ranch, but on the border, is you've taken different people down there, is people absolutely not following the rule of law.
Sure.
And really an onslaught of how they're trying to destroy our country. You've been down there more recently than I have in the last week.
Sure.
So tell us what you saw just in the last couple of days.
So in just the last week, folks, there's been a lot of cover up. So as you guys know, we've got National Guard deployed down at the border. Many of you guys that have followed me and seen what happens when I go down there, the National Guard, one, are being trained not to talk to media. So that is a true statement. I've got friends who have children in the National Guard that are telling us this. But the fact is that they're covering up the transportation of illegals that's taking place at night. I mean, why is it so important to move people from 11 a.m. all the way into the wee hours of the morning at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., at 4 a.m.? These people just don't sleep. But what we're seeing here is the cartel has control of the Texas state border. Whether they want to say it or not, it's an absolute fact that in La Jolla and Roma, the cartel are charging these people to cross. And the death and the murder that's taking place is happening in Texas soil now. If they don't have the money to cross the river, they will gut them. They will behead them. They will amputate body parts off of them. They will put them in bags. I've got evidence of it on my phone. I've got evidence of it off my phone, but I have evidence of it. I've got proof of video of the cartel putting them in rafts and floating them through on private properties and public properties to get them from the Mexico side across to Texas. And in Piedras Negras, in Eagles Pass, had the cartel ran down to the river because we're watching them moving these little children. And my concern is fighting for these children that are being moved into the sex trade. When 8 individuals run down to the riverfront, draw their weapons up on me, and they try to get line of sight between me and the pillar where I was standing. The fact is this: our government knows that the cartel's in control. Our government knows that there are open borders, and our government is allowing the use of these buses through the NGOs. And when Governor Abbott addressed this with an executive order stating that no more buses were going to be used for the NGOs, I think you can remember Catholic Charities, the nun stood forward on the national news and said she's not going to follow his directives, and she's going to do what she chooses to do. And her exact words is because she feels they're doing good here. I feel that she's taking a lot of federal grants for billions of dollars, and she's exploiting this for her private gain.
Tell them how she lied to you the other day.
So I went to the Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition of Del Rio. And when I went to this organization, I was being quite polite. I just simply wanted to document what this organization was and how they were helping people. She told me that they're no longer moving people through there. So as a smart humanitarian and Texan and media guy, I took a break and I had lunch right across the street. Here comes the buses full of Haitians. And of course, she's very disappointed as I'm the first person in Texas to break this story. As the Haitians are getting off the buses, they're being funneled into a classroom where they're giving them information. They rotate them out every 30 minutes. One of the other workers who works there, off the record, told me that they've already moved 5 buses that morning, when the director of the operation told us they weren't moving anyone. So these are prison buses. And as you saw in the screen videos that Weston had, I actually got the numbers going across the screen here of the prison buses moving these people. Now, keep in mind, they are picking them up, dropping them off, pick them up, dropping them off. There is no sanitation taking place. And matter of fact, the people that employ the people driving these buses should be ashamed of themselves because these Haitians just overtaken the buses, taking them to McAllen to the airport. And they were like beating up people inside the buses. And they did the same thing on aircraft where the aircraft wouldn't fly back to Haiti because the amount of dismay that took place on that aircraft. So not only are we seeing on buses this taking place, but where is the real regard to the aircraft? And I can tell you this, flight surgeons have a job for a reason in the United States Air Force. That's because anything inside of a pressurized cockpit or aircraft is multiplied. They often say, don't fly when you're sick, right? Because there's a lot of incubation that takes place on an aircraft. and these folks are infected with this virus. They're infected with HIV. They're infected with diseases that cause loss of vision for life. These are things we don't need in Texas, and it's taking place. And today, we're going to try to put a stop to it.
And it's even gotten worse, as you guys have heard about the Haitians that are coming through right now. I've got videos, I'm sure Mike does as well, where we've got individuals where they're getting on buses and they're jumping out of those buses, an hour away from Acuna, an hour away from other locations.
They're bailing out just like trucks.
And then they're just running through the streets of Mexico as well. The difference is that Mexico is telling them Texas is an hour that way.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not trying to detain them in any way, shape, or form. So we understand that in this situation, there's a lot of people that are sending those people here. What I am trying to do, and what Mike and some others are trying to do alongside me, is actually put a chokehold on how they're transporting these individuals. And we know that by filing complaints with the Department of Public Safety, that they are constitutionally bound to act on these complaints, and they are constitutionally bound to take enforcement action, which includes fining, getting these trucks off the road, and also removing licenses from commercial driver's license holders here in the state of Texas. So if you are the family member of a commercial driver's license holder in the border, please take this as your warning, because we know how hard it is for you to maintain your commercial driver's license in today's litigious environment. We know that you have families to feed, and we know that you're being told to do a job. Now that you are warned, now that you know that you're breaking the law, it is now going to be up to you to walk away, because you see, if you're not driving that bus with your commercial driver's license, those illegal aliens are not going to be on these buses. And again, we don't wish ill will on these people. We wish they would go back to their country and have a successful, happy, good life in their country. We're not going to let them come to our country and destroy our country and take our country and diminish it to where they came from. So we want to thank you guys for this time. We're going to end this press conference now. For those of y'all that are watching on Mike's Warrior for Ranchers, if you go to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page at Weston Martinez, we've been scrolling graphics and documents related to the buses and some of the things that'll be put in there. Once we file the complaints, we'll also publicize those as well for you guys to see and show you how to do it yourself. So if you see a bus driving by, if you know it's got illegal aliens on it, take a picture. The side of that bus has an indicator number that indicates the operator number and the license that they operate under. Each state has their own certification, and then that also connects federally.
And
so
if you can, get the DOT numbers on the driver's side and get the plates on the back. Talking to Department of Public Safety, it is common to see a paper document where the license plate should be. And that's because it's cheaper for them to get temporary permits for this many buses versus licensing them all.
Right. So on the side, usually it's on the side where the driver is, right there. And you can see there's usually stickers or stencils that are there. It'll have a long number about this long, and then it'll have another number shorter, and then another number shorter. So we know we've got a lot of questions that are coming through. We're going to answer those questions at another time. We want to thank each one of you all for tuning in. I want to thank Sandra Whitten, who's running for Congress, for helping to be a part of this. I want to thank all the people that are here. And Mike, thank you for being here.
You bet. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I want to thank all you guys who's taken the time to help collect this data for Weston and I, who's pulled up behind the buses, taken away from your daily regimen to document this and get this information to us. It's a huge help, and I want to say thank you.
Oh, and also Francisco, Border Patriot. He also provided some as well. So thank you to that, Francisco, and some other folks that are in Del Rio that don't want to be named. But we've got a plan, and we're going to protect Texas. So God bless you, and thank you.
Yep. God bless you guys, and God bless Texas.
This will conclude the press conference.